The knock at the door. The morning started like any other. Deceptively ordinary sunlight filtered through the lace. Curtains in the kitchen, spilling golden squares onto the worn oak table, where my grandfather once sat every morning, reading the paper while sipping black coffee, even now years after his passing. The faint smell of cedar polish still clung to the cabinets and floorboards. He had treated the house like a living thing, tending to it as carefully as he once tended to us. For me, this house wasn't just brick and mortar. It was memory. It was heritage. It was every laugh at Christmas dinners, every whispered story on stormy nights. It was my inheritance not simply in dollars and deeds, but in something far more sacred: trust. That's why I noticed the sound immediately. The slam of a car door outside shattered the stillness. My hand froze halfway to my coffee mug. Then came a second slam. Louder footsteps crunched up the gravel driveway. Confident, heavy, entitled. When I peered through the window, my stomach tightened. Derek, my older brother, strutted toward the house like he already owned it. Mom trailed beside him, her arms folded. Chin lifted in that familiar judgmental tilt. And behind them, two movers followed, laughing under their breath as they carried empty boxes toward the porch. Their smirk said it all. They believed this place was already theirs to strip. I took a breath, steadying myself. I had been waiting for this moment. When I opened the front door, Derek didn't waste a second. He thrust a thick folder toward me, his grin sharp as a blade. "Well, little brother," he drawled, "hate to break it to you, but this house isn't yours anymore. Mom and I took care of it. The deed's been signed over to me. You've got until Friday to pack your things." The words sliced through the air, cold and smug beside him. Mom crossed her arms tighter, her eyes gleaming with cruel satisfaction. "You should have seen this coming. Derek's the one who..." The trust revealed inside the living room. The air felt charged, as though the walls themselves knew a storm was about to break. Derek dropped his folder onto the coffee table with a loud slap, his jaw tight with manufactured confidence. Mom perched on the sofa like a queen in exile, her glare slicing through the room, as though sheer disdain could force me out. Robert Clean, the trustee, didn't hurry. He set his leather folder on the table, adjusted his tie, and lowered himself into the armchair, as if he had all the time in the world. His calmness wasn't casual. It was deliberate, a man who knew the weight of what he carried, and was in no rush to swing it. Derek leaned forward, his voice rising. "All right, enough with the theatrics. The deed is in my name, signed. Stamped and official. You..." He jabbed a finger at Robert. "Don't belong here." Robert folded his hands in his lap, eyes steady on the contrary. "Mr. Johnson, I'm the only one who does." The room went still. Even the movers who had been whispering near the door froze, caught in the gravity of his words. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Derek barked, though the edge of his voice betrayed nerves. Robert opened his folder, revealing a stack of thick documents, marked with court seals and signatures. He spoke slowly, each word deliberate. "This estate hasn't belonged to either of you since the day your father's will was executed. Every asset this house, the land, the savings accounts, the investments was transferred into a private, irrevocable trust. And as trustee, I'm legally bound to enforce the terms." Mom's smug facade cracked like porcelain under pressure. She shifted uncomfortably, her hands tightening into fists. What terms she demanded, that was my cue. I finally leaned forward, my voice steady, sharper than it had ever been. "The terms you never bothered to read, because you were too busy celebrating Derek's so-called win. The trust isn't just holding the house, it's holding everything." The courtroom reckoning 2 weeks later. The war moved from my doorstep to the courthouse. The air outside buzzed with reporters. Their cameras flashed like lightning as they jostled for position, hungry for every detail. The headline practically wrote itself. "Siblings battle over $900,000 estate." Inside, the courtroom was packed. Wooden benches creaked under the weight of gossip. Hungry spectators, journalists leaned forward, pens poised, eyes glinting. Everyone wanted blood. Derek strutted in first, his cheap navy suit wrinkled at the sleeves. jaw tight with forced bravado. His lawyer, a man whose desperation was obvious, even in his crooked tie, carried a briefcase that looked too light to matter. Mom clung to Derek's arm, her eyes darting nervously, as though she could already hear the whispers, following her across the aisle. Robert and I sat quietly. He was calm, immovable. A wall of control, with his leather briefcase resting on the table like a loaded weapon. I could feel the weight of his preparation, the hundreds of pages, the airtight legal net he had woven around them. The judge, a stern woman with steel-gray hair, adjusted her glasses and spoke sharply. Court is now in session. We are here, regarding the estate of Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. Petitioners claim rightful transfer of the property to Derek Johnson. Counsel proceed. Derek's lawyer rose, already sweating under the fluorescent lights. Your Honor, my client believed. Robert was on his feet before the man could finish. His voice was crisp, confident, the kind of voice that silences rooms. Your Honor, before arguments begin, I'd like to submit Exhibit A. He opened his briefcase and placed a thick folder on the judge's bench. The sound echoed in the chamber like a gavel itself. This is the irrevocable trust, he continued, executed 5 years ago by my client's grandparents. It places all assets, this property, financial accounts, land, under legal protection. The respondent is the sole bene, the collapse and legacy. The courthouse doors swung shut behind me, muting the chaos of reporters clawing for headlines. Their voices faded, their flashes dimmed, and for the first time in months, I felt air in my lungs that wasn't heavy with dread. But for Derek and Mom, the storm was only just beginning. The fall begins the very next morning. The news cycle exploded. Inheritance heist exposed in court. Brother and mother accused of fraud in $900,000 trust scandal. Their names were everywhere: newspapers, online blogs, whispered across coffee shops. Neighbors who once waved politely at Mom now turned their backs. Derek's colleagues at his brokerage firm quietly pushed him out as clients. Didn't want their money near a man branded by fraud. Within 2 weeks, his desk was cleared, his title stripped and his phone calls unanswered. Mom fared no better. She had built her life around appearances, lunches, charities, small-town influence, but invitations stopped coming. Old friends avoided her gaze in grocery store aisles. The woman who once thrived on control now lived under the crushing weight of humiliation. At night, whispers leaked from their side of town. The lights off earlier than usual. The mailbox stuffed with unopened letters. And though I never checked, I could imagine the contents: foreclosure warnings, legal summons, debt collection notices. The house they'd tried to steal had become their coffin. The price of betrayal. One evening I passed by their driveway. Derek was there hauling garbage bags into the trunk of his dented car. His posture was broken, his shoulders sagging under the weight of defeat. For a moment he saw me. Our eyes locked across the distance. There was no fire in his glare anymore. No, it against only emptiness. The hollow look of a man who had gambled everything and lost. He didn't speak. Neither did I, but in that silence, a truth hung heavy. He knew this downfall wasn't mine to celebrate. It was his to own.